welcome to Women's Health on the Go Monday night live feed. Tonight we're going to be talking about pelvic floor issues that people have throughout life. If you haven't seen our website, www.womenshealthonthego.com, where we offer telemedicine or video appointments for people and their gynecological needs. This is great for people who can't get to their gynecologist. Their office hours are, they don't have anything available for a couple of weeks. Also for people who don't have health insurance and you can't get to the gynecologist and you need to. It's one great way, an alternative way. We sometimes have to be a little creative, but the visits are very reasonable and they're great for people to make sure that they can get what they need. So, and this month I want to start off by saying that it is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. So make sure that you have had your pap smear, you've had your screening. Make sure that you talk to a provider about the screening guidelines and what is best for you. And because there are still women who are getting cervical cancer, as much as we have progressed in research and knowledge about HPV, and actually the incidence of cervical cancer is, slowly creeping down. It still exists. About 12,000 women will be diagnosed with cervical cancer this year. So make sure that you go and get your pap smear. So our topic for this evening, the pelvic floor and what can happen with it. A lot of people can have what we call pelvic floor disorders. The one that I'm going to kind of review, three of them, which all have to do with the muscles in the pelvic region. Now, we all have muscles that help support the organs such as the uterus, and then we'll also have lower muscles which kind of support the walls inside the vagina. And when we're young, just like when our muscles in our arms and our bodies are nice and toned, as we get older, sometimes they become a little bit relaxed. I always say that, as we get older, we should be going to the gym and we should be taking our vagina to the gym as well. We should make sure that we are working out those muscles, because there's a couple things that can kind of happen. When we're younger, when we have children, I try to, at a postpartum visit, really talk to women about doing, I'm sure you've heard of Kegel exercises, because when you have that baby coming out of there, it kind of, and then also from the baby being there, pressing down, those muscles can become relaxed, and you're at risk for those muscles the walls to be becoming very relaxed, and also for your uterus to start coming down. And especially if you plan on having more children, you want to make sure that those muscles are very, they're very toned and they're, in shape. So, and then also when we get older, when we go through menopause and we have that lack of estrogen, that lack of estrogen can also cause relaxation in those vaginal walls. I want to say hi to Nancy. I can see she's watching. Hi, Nancy. That's my mom. Thank you for coming. I can see there's someone else there. Make sure you say hello. I'm having a little problem sometimes seeing who's actually here, but I'm hoping that I can definitely see if you say hello in the comment section, so that I can definitely say hello to you. And if you have any questions, make sure that you put them below. Even if you're watching this afterwards, I will comment on your questions. So for those of you, I can see some more people are joining. We are talking about the pelvic floor, the muscles, and what can happen to them. So as I was saying before, from having children and multiple children, those muscles and the vaginal walls can relax. And also when we start going through menopause, those muscles can relax. And then also when we are doing the number 2, and I always recommend we do not push anything out. We always let it come out naturally, and sometimes that pushing, and you're pushing also, sometimes you're pushing a little bit of vaginal muscles as well, it can cause those kind of relax. So the different kinds of, how do I put it? Okay, so there's different vaginal walls that can come relaxed, and then there's the uterus can come, the pelvic floor, the diaphragm, pelvic diaphragm can become relaxed, and then the uterus can come down. So there's two different kinds. One, there's if your bladder starts coming down. So if you think of this is the front of your body and this is the back of your body, and if you go inside your vaginal walls, sometimes people have the relaxing of this vaginal wall, okay, and that's called what we call a cystocele, and that's when your bladder is actually, those wall muscles are not strong enough, and your bladder is kind of coming down. Then you have what we call a rectocele, and that's when your backside, so just think of your stool, your rectum and your intestines are back here, and these muscles become relaxed, and the muscles start relaxing in and coming down, and then that is the intestinal wall that's coming in. So sometimes we can see women who have cystoceles and then rectoceles, and then sometimes we can actually see when we do a speculum exam and we go in, usually we got to go in all the way in to find that cervix. When we have a uterine prolapse, we can go in and it could be right there. I actually had a patient just about a week or two ago, and she was an elderly lady, and she came in and she was saying how something's coming out of her. I don't know what it is. She had gone to the urologist. I don't know how he couldn't see what was wrong. But as soon as I examined her, I can see her cervix was almost protruding outside her vagina. So that can definitely happen as well. But the whole key here is that if you're nice and young and healthy, what we need to do now is we need to get those wall muscles and those pelvic muscles in shape to prevent that from happening. So one of the most important things, well, there's two things that you can really do. One, I am sure everyone has heard of Kegel exercises. The great thing about Kegel exercises is that you can do them anywhere, anytime, and nobody's going to know that you're doing them. But you've got to do them. Even if you are watching this and you are really young, start doing them now. Get in the habit of doing them so you don't have a problem later in life. And basically what that is basically contracting the muscles down there. And the easiest way to kind of identify them that I tell people is that when you're going to go pee, when you do number one, when you're sitting there, while you're peeing in the middle of it, stop the flow and contract all those muscles. And when you're doing that, you can identify the muscles, you can feel the muscles, and then relax, and then hold the pee again, just so you can get familiar with those muscles. And what you want to do is you want to do them. Now, Dr. Kegel actually recommends that you do them kind of different ways. One, that you quickly hold, release, quickly hold, release, quickly hold, release. And then there's the holding, 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 and then release. And the one that you're doing it really slow, and as you're doing it harder, you're doing it harder, and you're doing it harder. And that you should be doing about 10 repetitions of each of those throughout the day. And those are Kegel exercises. Highly recommend them, definitely after you've had a baby, and definitely as you get older and you start going through that lack of estrogen. Another thing to do, and that is recommended, is having orgasms. Because when you actually have an orgasm, you might not kind of realize this, but you're contracting all of those muscles. So whether you were with a partner or whether you are by yourself, that is another thing that they say that you should definitely do. Now, you might not see, if you're starting to have relax of those muscles and stuff like that, it is just like when we're working out, right? When we're working out, it's not going to happen tomorrow. You unfortunately have to keep going to the gym. And it's the same concept with, doing Kegel exercises. You got to do them at least 3 to 6 months to keep, it going in order to see any kind of change. So if you're having those vaginal wall muscles that are relaxing, or you're starting to know that, or your provider has told you that your uterus is starting to relax, make sure you start doing them. But just realize, just when we go to the gym, this is what happens. It's New Year's Eve. We have our New Year's resolutions right now, and we're all going to go to the gym. And the majority of us are going to stop going because we want those quick results, and they don't happen. So this is the same thing with this, okay? It does take a while. You just have to make sure that you keep going and you keep going at it, okay? Some other things you can do. Some people recommend inclined positions where if you're doing exercises and let's say you're flat on your back and you take your bottom, your butt, and you lift it up and you hold it so you're sort of kind of at an angle, doing those kind of poses. Anything putting your sitting on the with your back on the floor with your legs up in the air, laying on your back and bringing your feet, your knees, if you can. I am not that stretchable, but trying to, and if you keep doing it, you will be able to, pull them back further, but bringing your knees into your chest, kind of rocking your pelvis region and trying to just keep that pelvis region up. If you do yoga, which yoga is really, really amazing if you do it, the downward facing dog, which that is basically if you get on all fours and then you kind of push your arms back and your butt is in the air, so you're literally like in a V position. That's downward facing dog. Let's see, there's also the shoulder one where basically, which, I mean, you got to be really advanced to do this. This is basically, you are literally on your shoulders, here's your head back here, and your feet are straight up in the air. Sometimes they suggest if you do that up against the wall, but that's really advanced yoga if you ask me, because I couldn't do that. So yoga, doing yoga and contracting those muscles, that's another thing to do. One thing that I definitely suggest everybody to do is, what do they call it? There's a great YouTube commercial about it. It's the potty squatty. I think that's what it's called. But you can take any kind of stool, and when you're going number 2, and I always highly recommend people don't push, but if you watch, I got to put the link below. I'm going to have to put the link for the potty squatty because it is a hysterical commercial. I'm just going to write a note, potty squatty video. It is literally hysterical, but it talks about how the way that we sit, on a toilet, it really constricts our intestines, and that's why it's harder for our poop to actually come out. Where if you raise your legs up a little bit, it relaxes that muscle around the rectum, and it actually opens it up, and it has it so it's more comfortable and a lot easier to come out. Now, I will tell you that I don't have a squatty potty, but I do have a stool, and it has changed my number 2 habits tremendously, and I recommend it to everybody. It is, if you look in other countries, they all squat when they go to the bathroom. It is a more natural way. It comes out a lot easier, and it allows you not to be pushing. So I definitely highly recommend that. You don't need to get the expensive squatty potty if you don't want to. You can just get yourself a stool. That's what I did. And I always use it when I do number 2. Another thing that you could do herb-wise. Now, I tell this to every video. Make sure that if you're going to do this, make sure you speak to a qualified person about what herbs you're going to take, because they can interact with medications. They can interact with each other. Herbs should be respected and used just like medications. So I'm going to give you a recommendation, but please make sure that you speak to someone and make sure that you definitely don't just do this on your own. So, but black cohosh has been known to be good for pelvic muscle relaxations. It's also, we call it a uterine tonic. It's help, heal the area. Doing sitz baths, doing sitz bath with witch hazel and also oak bark, but you can actually do it with you. What you want is like an astringent. So you want right now, if your walls are very kind of relaxed, you want to give it an astringent to kind of tone it up a little bit. Now you may have to, if you're postmenopausal, you may have to substitute this with a little like estrogen type of herb or something like that, because your walls are already really kind of thin, but the astringent is going to help kind of tone things up. Where everything's kind of relaxed, it's going to tone things up. So they say you could do like a sitz bath with that to kind of tone up that that tissue down there. So that's kind of herb wise. This one you'd actually have to make sure that you absolutely see a provider for. There are things called pessaries. Now, I think it's really great to try all of these natural ways of doing it, because the last resort is actually having surgery. And surgery, depending on who you go to, could be anywhere from a hysterectomy to just kind of pinning everything back up in the pelvic region. And sometimes when people have a uterine prolapse, depending how extent it is, but if you take the uterus out, then you have this empty space, and sometimes then you end up having other problems. So we'll definitely try to make sure that if you do see a provider and you are brought with the option of surgery, that you definitely get a second opinion, and also just try to do things kind of naturally depending on the extent of your prolapse. Sometimes you can just put a pessary in and it'll help, but sometimes you definitely need to have surgery. But what a pessary is now, pessaries have been around for a long time. They've been around for a very long time, and they've been made out of lots of different materials, as you can imagine. Now they're made out of like a surgical silicone, and they're basically like a donut. I'm sure that people have had, some people have seen, if they've broken their tailbone, they sit on like this rubbery kind of, donut, like not the same kind of way, but it's just a round kind of cushy kind of device. It's not filled with air or anything. It's like, it's solid, but it's made out of a silicone grade surgical stuff. But it's kind of like a donut. Some of them have little holes in them, some of them big holes. There's so many different shapes and sizes because we're all made differently. Everyone's vagina is different shapes and sizes, but that is something that you definitely need to go to a provider to get measured for. Sometimes you get one, they say, all right, move around a little bit, see how you feel with it. Okay, it's going good. Now go home with it, see how it's going, and then if you're still having problems, to come back, because with a lot of things in healthcare and a lot of things in life, you need to kind of try things and see how it goes. Take the next step if it doesn't work. But pessaries are definitely a good thing. I've seen pessaries used for, I used to work in a practice a long time ago. So it was when I was a nurse, and they used pessaries. There was more like of a hole in the middle, and anybody who were pregnant with twins, they used to put the pessary in around, I don't know, anywhere from 33 to 34 weeks, because a lot of people who have twin pregnancies are at risk for preterm labor. So they would do, cervical checks and stuff, and they would put the pessaries in, and it would sort of kind of go right over the cervix to kind of hold the cervix closed in a way. And it was very successful. It was very interesting. Very interesting practice that I worked in. But pessaries are used in many different shapes and forms. They are a great way to help with when you're having these prolapse. But the key is to start doing your exercises. Absolutely start doing your exercises. And like I said, the last thing to do is basically surgery. And there's different types of surgery depending on the extent of the prolapse or the cystocele, rectocele, depending on is it on the back side, which is your rectocele, or is it on the front side as your bladder. There's just so many variables to it, and that is something that you would definitely have to see a medical provider before. But if you can get these things before and start exercising that vagina right now, that would be awesome. Another thing to do is I always suggest if you're with somebody, a great time to do those Kegels is when you're actually having sexual relations, because it actually, if you're having sex with males and they're penetrating inside, it squeezes on it and it's actually pleasurable for them. So definitely try those things out. So that's about it when it comes to pelvic floor muscle disorder kind of stuff. I hope that you found all this information. I hope you found it interesting. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to leave questions below. I just was told, I think Erin's here as well, so hello Erin. Thank you so much for coming and showing up. So if you have any questions, make sure you put them below. I will definitely answer them back. If you have a private question, don't hesitate to either private message me on my Facebook, go to my website, womenshealthonthego.com, and reach out to me, my contact page, or email me at lori@womenshealthonthego.com. If you haven't done so, please make sure that you sign up for my newsletter. Every month I put out a newsletter that has some women's health tips, and this month I'm almost ready. I got also a video that's going to be out on that this month, so make sure that you sign that up. And I will put the link below, and that's womenshealthonthego.com/subscribe. And remember, it is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. Make sure that you go to your healthcare provider if you are due for your pap smear. We can keep decreasing the incidence of cervical cancer, but you have to make sure that you go and get screened, okay? Thank you very much. I will see you next week, same time, same place. And that's about it. Remember, women's health matters. We matter. Let's make sure that we take care of ourselves. And I will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.